welcome into a Friday night edition of Chris's Corner on Spreaker.com, national sports station. Lovely to be back with you all. It's been a long time in between shows for the second time. I apologize for that. Just been having some trouble. Not trouble, but just been so busy in life. But it's good to be back on the air. It's the holiday season. I hope you all are enjoying your vacation if you have a vacation. If not, and you're working listening to my show, I absolutely commend you, because you'd rather be listening to Chris's Corner than working, and to me that is awesome. But I don't encourage it, because working is what makes this world go round. Alright, well, before we get the show started, like I said, I haven't been on the air for quite a while, and of course I have to take this moment to just send out my prayers and my condolences to the families in Newtown, Connecticut, who lost their loved ones last Friday in the horrible tragedy, the horrific tragedy that took place at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut. So certainly, on behalf of not only myself but everyone here on the national sports station on Spreaker.com, just have to send out our condolences and our prayers to those who are suffering during this should be jolly time, but unfortunately, tragedy struck last Friday, and we certainly wish the families who were involved in that, and friends as well, best of luck getting through this holiday season, and just starting to slowly separate from what happened last Friday. Still a lot of people in shock, including myself, and so just had to take a moment right there to send out not only mine but everyone else here at National Sports' condolences and prayers to those families, and we wish them a very Merry Christmas. But life will go on, the sports world will go on, and a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all of you tuned in at the moment or tuned in after the fact. It's a Friday night edition of Chris's Corner, December 21st, 2012. That date just rings a bell in your head, right? It's supposed to be the apocalypse according to the Mayan calendar. It's 7:19 over here on the West Coast, and nothing yet. Look out my window. It's dark, but it should be at this time of night, and I'm pretty sure everyone's still living, and the world is still existent in other parts of the world right now. So certainly a day that a lot of people feared when they first found out about it, but now that it's actually here, I think we all realize that nobody can really predict the end of the world. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. I didn't talk at all about sports in that last 4.5 minutes. When we come back, it's going to be nothing but sports. We're going to get you college hoops, college football, all the bowl games that are going on, including the bowl game between UCF and Ball State going on right now, the Beef O'Brady's Bowl down in St. Petersburg, Florida. We're also going to talk about NFL playoff scenarios. It's already week 16. 2 more weeks to go in the regular season, then we hop over into the playoffs. There's been a lot going on in the MLB as of late. There's been big signings, there's been a couple of trades, and we're also going to look at potential trades, potential destinations for free agents still left out there. There's some good ones out there, and we're also going to take a look at the teams, who have lost their star player, cough cough, the Texas Rangers, and see what they're going to do with that. And then we'll talk about the team that gained the star player, cough cough, the Angels. So we're going to talk about a lot: MLB hot stove, NFL football, NCAA football, NCAA basketball. It's all coming your way next. You're listening to Chris's Corner on Spreaker.com. Welcome back to Chris's Corner, Friday night edition, December 21st. We're all still here, and we are ready to talk some sports. It's just me tonight. Everyone else was booked, tried to get some special guests, some colleagues here at National Sports. No one's available, but it's understandable. A lot of people hiding, a lot of people wrapping presents, a lot of people, getting ready for this hectic holiday season, but you're tuned in right now. So now it's time to talk about sports, and we're going to start off in the world of college basketball as we have the AP Top 25 in front of us here. Just real quick, going over the top 10, you got Duke at number 1, Michigan at number 2, Syracuse at 3, Arizona at 4, Louisville at 5, Indiana at 6, 7 is Ohio State, 8 is Florida, 9 is Kansas, and 10 is Illinois. So just by hearing that top 10, you hear there's a lot of Big Ten teams right there, notably Michigan, Indiana, Ohio State, and Illinois. So there's 4 Big Ten teams in the top 10 for college basketball. Indiana last Saturday going down in overtime against I don't know if you can really call them a Cinderella anymore. Butler's really turned into a legit mid-major program, and they might not be mid-major for much longer with all that's going on with conference realignment and the schools leaving the Big East. So certainly, Butler, the back-to-back years appearing in the national championship games, not really sure you can call them a Cinderella anymore, but we'll go ahead and do it here. The Cinderella story, has been living for about 4 or 5 years now with the Butler Bulldogs, and last week they, like I just mentioned, they took down Indiana in overtime. Indiana 9-1 on the season, but really haven't faced much adversity, much competition. A lot of these big-time schools schedule somewhat soft to boost confidence for later in the season. And if you're in the Big Ten, I agree with you that you should schedule soft, because you look at the conference, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams in the Big Ten that are ranked, all in the top 20. Illinois, Michigan, Indiana, Minnesota, Ohio State, and Michigan State. And a good Iowa team that's 10-2 might not be unranked for much longer. Everyone in this conference, other than Purdue, surprisingly, who's usually a top program in the Big Ten, is over 500. Purdue 5-6. Not really sure what's going on with the Boilermakers program right now. But back to Indiana. They had a nice overtime win against Georgetown and blew the door off of North Carolina. North Carolina, after that loss to Texas, not going to be ranked when the new poll comes out this upcoming week. So I don't know if that's exactly a quote-unquote good win. Obviously, you got to respect Roy Williams and everything that he's done with the Tar Heels, but this is just absolutely not his kind of team right now, or so far. Let's take a quick look at the comment board, the chat board. We got hi from Robert. Can I go on your show? Yes, Robert, you can come on the show if you're still listening. That's Robert Dieters, the founder of National Sports on Spreaker.com. Why would you turn down the founder? But back to Indiana. You look at these teams: Bryant University, North Dakota State, Sam Houston State, Ball State, Coppin State, Mount St. Mary's, Florida Atlantic. They don't schedule very hard. And out of the 3 semi-hard games, 2 of them went to overtime and 1 of them they lost. So certainly, Indiana, a very good team at home, but those 2 overtime games coming at neutral sites. After the North Carolina game, there was no way this team was not the best in the country, because obviously we didn't know that North Carolina wasn't the North Carolina of old. We still thought this team was rolling. Even though they had lost to Butler in the Maui Invitational earlier in the season, we still look at this UNC team, which was ranked number 14th in the nation at the time, and looked at them as, hey, this team's always going to have a chance to get to the Final Four because of the recruits that Roy Williams brings in and just the reputation of the Tar Heels program. But, at that point, when Indiana blew out North Carolina at home, you got the sense that nobody in the country, even though Michigan and Illinois and Ohio State and Michigan State and Minnesota are all in the same conference, you got the sense that Indiana couldn't be stopped by anybody. But then they get into a dogfight with Butler, and frankly, Butler just wanted it more. And that's what happened. The team that wanted it more won. That's what happens the majority of the time in college sports. Indiana walked into this game expecting another 20, 25-point win and came out with the L. So, you don't know about this Indiana team. I did watch a little bit of their last two games against Mount St. Mary's and Florida Atlantic. Huge wins, 93-54 over Mount St. Mary's, 88-52 over Florida Atlantic tonight. Back to the same old blowing out, but after Indiana plays Jacksonville at home in a week from now, it does not get any easier. You get into conference play: Iowa, Penn State, and Minnesota. Wisconsin, Northwestern, Penn State again to start off the conference slate. Then you play Michigan State at home. You go to Purdue. Let's say you make it through there undefeated. Okay, but then you hit probably the hardest 8-game stretch any team in college could go through. You're at home against the number 2 team in the nation, Michigan. 5 days later, you travel to Illinois to play the number 10 ranked Illini. And 3 days after that, you head to Ohio State to play the 7th ranked Buckeyes. So, if Indiana thinks they're going to walk through the Big Ten, and I think after that loss to Butler is a little bit of a wake-up call, but Indiana's got to step it up, not only inside, because Zeller is a fantastic player. He's going to go, if he does enter the draft, he probably is going to go number 1, because Shabazz Muhammad, he's been good, but he hasn't looked like a number 1 NBA prospect so far. Things can change. It's very early in the season. We haven't even hit conference play yet. But, this very good group of talented Hoosier players really have to step it up from all over the court. Yogi Ferrell's been arguably the best freshman in the nation. And then, like I said, you have Zeller down low. Watford, a seasoned veteran, hit that 3 at the buzzer to knock off the then number 1 Kentucky Wildcats last season. And then you got other guys like Oladipo and Sheehy, who are big contributors for the Hoosiers as well. So, Indiana, they have the roster, they have the pieces. It's all about putting it together now. And they have. I'm not criticizing Indiana at all for a 2-point loss against a very good Butler team, now ranked 19th in the nation. But you have to take those things into perspective, and you got to understand that, Butler's not even close to the best of competition you're going to play this season, especially when you get into conference play. Number 2 on the list, Michigan. They've looked good. Hardaway Jr., All-American so far. He's been great. Syracuse, C.J. Fair, guys like that. Michael Carter-Williams, they've looked great. Arizona, that's the next team I want to talk about. Arizona, and we'll talk about. Don't worry, we'll talk about Duke, the number 1 team in the nation, in a second. And but how about Arizona last week knocking off Florida at home 65-64, a furious comeback led by Xavier transfer Marcus Lyons. He's been great for them. And Arizona really hasn't played any cupcakes on their schedule so far. They played a lot of good teams. They absolutely smashed Texas Tech. They beat a good Southern Miss team that went to the tournament last year at home. They beat Long Beach State, who went to the tournament last year. Going to Clemson and pulling out a victory isn't the easiest thing in the world. Oral Roberts is one of the top mid-majors the last couple of years in the NCAA. And then that Florida win really solidifies them. They're already at an at-large status, unless they absolutely don't do anything in conference play. But, this team is easily a top 5 team in the nation, number 4 right now. But, the transfers, along with the recruiting class that the Wildcats brought in this season, I really don't think they're going to be stopped in the Pac-12. They're the only team currently ranked in the Pac-12. Obviously, there's other good teams like Washington, UCLA, an improved Utah squad. Cal's very good. Stanford's very good. Oregon's very good. So honestly, it's not going to come easy for Arizona in the Pac-12, but right now they're clearly ahead above the rest of the competition. UCLA, not really a mess. They've really cleaned it up. They're 8-3 now, but Ben Howland's job is in jeopardy after that, all the hype around the recruiting class to not being ranked after getting upset by Cal Poly at home and, not doing well in the Barclays tournament they had in Brooklyn earlier in the year. So UCLA, not what they were, but you have a sense that they're playing better and better every time out, and that they are going to be a force when it comes to conference play. You circle that date, January 24th, Arizona versus UCLA in Arizona. Should be a heck of a game. Right now, Arizona out in Honolulu for the Diamond Head Classic, and the first game they are going to face are the East Tennessee State Buccaneers, and they are 2-7 out of the Atlantic Sun Conference. So should be another rollover win there. But say they were to get to the championship game in the Diamond Head Classic, it would set up a very intriguing matchup between them and the 18th ranked San Diego State Aztecs. So certainly some suspense brewing for that Diamond Head Classic championship game that all gets underway tomorrow from the Sheriff Center in Honolulu, Hawaii. And the last team I want to touch up on in the top 10 are the Duke Blue Devils. Now, Duke has been undoubtedly, unarguably, the best team in the nation so far. They've knocked off 3 top 5 teams, or at least they were top 5 at the moment, in Kentucky, Louisville, and Ohio State. Obviously, Kentucky, don't know what's really happened to them and John Calipari's squad so far this season. But I do know that Duke is top 10 team in the nation, number 1 team in the nation, led by Madison Plumlee, averaging 19-11. But I want to go ahead and tomorrow at Cameron Indoor Stadium at 12 o'clock Eastern, put the Duke Blue Devils on upset alert. Santa Clara, a 9-2 team out of the WCC, is going to come in there very hard. That is not going to be an easy game for Duke, who's playing their 3rd game in 4 days. Elon out of South Carolina, the Elon Phoenix, gave them a run for their money yesterday, as that game was very close at the half and Duke was able to run away in the second half. But certainly when you're the number 1 team in the nation, you got the biggest target on your back in the world. Quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to be talking NCAA football, talk about the bowl games, get you updated on that Beef O'Brady's Bowl that's going on right now in St. Petersburg, and of course the national championship game for Notre Dame and Alabama, January 7th. I'll give you my picks when we come back. Chris's Corner, Spreaker.com.
So come on and take it easy yourself before you wreck yourself. Check.
Welcome back into Chris's Corner. It is time to talk about college football, and of course it is the college bowl season, one of my favorite types of sports season there is. I guess you could call it that, but gotta love college bowl season. You're wrapped up in blankets by the fireplace and you're watching football. Nothing better than football. Right now, Ball State and UCF are underway, but let's cover the last 3 bowl games. We had 2 this past weekend. Arizona 49, and a crazy comeback. The Wildcats beat the Nevada Wolfpack 49-48 in the Gildan, New Mexico Bowl. Rich Rodriguez getting his first season under his belt at Arizona. Got a bowl win. That's improvement for that Arizona program for sure, after having a disastrous season the season before, and Nick Foles' senior season, of course. You got Nick Foles starting for the Philadelphia Eagles now in the NFL. Last night, BYU knocking off San Diego State in San Diego at the San Diego County Credit Union Poinsettia Bowl. Can't forget Utah State knocking off Toledo this past weekend as well, 41-15. But San Diego State losing on their own ground. It's a little bit interesting there. Ball State and UCF currently underway right now at the Beef O'Brady's Bowl in St. Petersburg. UCF walking all over Ball State with 10-12 to go in the fourth quarter. 38-10. The UCF Knights, the second placers, the Conference USA runner-up this year. They're moving to the Big East Conference along with Houston, SMU, and Memphis out of CUSA. And that whole debacle going on in the Big East right now. Tomorrow, East Carolina, another team that will eventually move to the Big East out of the CUSA, taking on Louisiana Lafayette in the RNL Carriers Bowl in New Orleans. Washington and Boise State are taking on each other in the Mako Las Vegas Bowl. That should be interesting. Boise State ranked 19th in the nation. Washington was ranked before getting upset at Washington State to end the season, so certainly that sour taste might be in the Huskies' mouth, and it'll be interesting to see how they come out and respond against the number 19th Boise State Broncos, as they, seem to be in the Mako Bowl, Las Vegas Bowl every season, if they're not in a BCS Bowl. Fresno State and SMU take each other on in the Sheraton Hawaii Bowl on Christmas Eve. Western Kentucky and Central Michigan on the 26th in the Little Caesars Bowl. Number 24, San Jose State takes on Bowling Green in the Military Bowl on the 27th, as well as Cincinnati Duke and Baylor UCLA. That should be a very good game. Really tight competition in that one. Of course, Baylor riding a 4-game winning streak to end the season, including 2 upsets over ranked teams. UCLA ranked number 17th in the nation, coming off back-to-back losses against Stanford. Of course, the regular season loss to end the season, and then losing by a field goal in the Pac-12 championship game. Friday, December 28th, you got Ohio and Louisiana Monroe in the Advocare V100 Independence Bowl, Rutgers and Virginia Tech in the Russell Athletic Bowl, and Minnesota and Texas Tech in the Menke Car Care Bowl of Texas. So that should be a good matchup as well. Minnesota, a team that's really reviving its program. We were able to become bowl eligible this year. Texas Tech, a team with an up and down season, really ended on the downslope. We're going to see how the Red Raiders respond after Cliff Kingsbury took the head coaching job there. I always think it's weird when a coach gets a team to a bowl game and they end up getting fired. Isn't that what you're supposed to do? I mean, you're not going to tell me that you expected Texas Tech to win the Big 12 title or go to a BCS Bowl this year. I don't know what they're exactly asking, but Cliff Kingsbury in at Texas Tech. Rice versus Air Force on the 29th, as well as West Virginia versus Syracuse. Navy and Arizona State in the Kraft Fight Hunger Bowl. Number 23, Texas, and number 13, Oregon State should be a good one at the Alamo Bowl. And TCU and Michigan State at the Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl. Monday the 31st, NC State and Vanderbilt in the American Music City Bowl. USC and Georgia Tech at the Sun Bowl. Iowa State and Tulsa at the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. And LSU and Clemson in the Chick-fil-A Bowl. Those are all the non-BCS games. And then we get into the BCS games. You got the Capital One Bowl. You got the Outback Bowl. And the Rose Bowl. And the Discover Orange Bowl. So, I'm going to give you my picks. Georgia and Nebraska. Gotta be Georgia. South Carolina, Michigan. Gotta be South Carolina. And I'm going to go with Wisconsin over Stanford in the Rose Bowl. Third time's the charm for Wisconsin. They just hired Anderson, the coach from Utah State. Should be good there. And then Northern Illinois and Florida State. Not sure why that game's even being played. Florida State in a blowout. Louisville and Florida matchup in the Sugar Bowl. Louisville really doesn't even deserve a BCS bid, but Big East rules. Florida wins. Oregon, Kansas State should be a fun game. Oregon wins. Texas A&M in Oklahoma in the Cotton Bowl. That's not a BCS bowl. Give it to Oklahoma. They'll beat Johnny Manziel and Texas A&M. Landry Jones, Kenny Stills, they'll do it. And of course, Notre Dame and Alabama in the national championship. This is a tough one. Notre Dame, Manti Te'o, Everett Golson, T.J. Jones, Alabama, McElroy, Nick Saban. They've been there and done it before. It's really a tough decision. Notre Dame, Alabama. But I'll go with Notre Dame in the national championship. Let's move over to the NFL real quickly before we get on Robert Dieters after the commercial break. Just real quick, going over the playoff scenarios. New England's already clinched the AFC East. Denver's already clinched the AFC West. Houston's already clinched the AFC South. And Baltimore has already clinched a playoff spot. So, that leaves 2 more playoff spots to be determined. Baltimore Ravens will clinch the AFC North with a Baltimore win or a Baltimore tie and a Cincinnati loss. Houston clinches home field advantage with a Houston win or Denver loss or tie or Denver loss and a New England loss combined. Houston clinches a first round bye with a Houston tie or a Denver loss or a New England loss or tie. And Denver clinches a first round bye with a Denver win and a New England loss or a Denver tie and a New England loss. Indianapolis looking to fight for a playoff spot. Andrew Luck's done a fantastic job there. Indiana win or tie, or a Pittsburgh loss and tie. I'm not even sure. The Jets are eliminated from postseason play. I'm not sure that this has anything to do with that, but Robert Dieters just told me to go to another sport. I'm on the NFL right now, so it's good. It's good. We're on the NFL. Indianapolis has clinched a playoff berth with a win or a Pittsburgh loss or tie, and of course the Cincinnati Bengals, who made it to the playoffs last year, led by a young redhead quarterback Andy Dalton, clinch with a win and a New York Jets loss or tie. In the NFC, Atlanta's already clinched the South, Green Bay's already clinched the North, and San Francisco's already clinched the playoff spot. Atlanta 12-2 on the season. They had a blowout win against the New York Giants this past weekend. They clinch home field advantage with an Atlanta win or a San Francisco and Green Bay loss. And they clinch a first round bye with a win, loss for San Francisco, or a loss for Green Bay. San Francisco wins the NFC West with a win or tie against the Seattle Seahawks, and they clinch a first round bye with a win in addition to a Green Bay loss or tie, or a San Francisco tie and a Green Bay loss. Seattle clinches a playoff berth with a win or a tie, loss from the Giants, win from nobody, loss from the Redskins, loss from the Vikings, and loss from the Bears, or a loss from the Giants, loss from the Redskins, loss from the Minnesota Vikings, loss from the Chicago Bears, or plus a loss from the Dallas Cowboys. So Seattle, if luck is on your side, you will clinch a playoff berth this weekend. New York will clinch a playoff berth with a win plus a Washington loss plus a Dallas loss plus a Minnesota loss plus a Chicago loss. And of course, Washington has a little bit easier, but it's not easy. They have to win. New York has to lose, Minnesota has to lose, and Chicago has to lose. Those are the NFL playoff scenarios. When we get back, we're going to wrap up the show and talk with Robert Dieters about MLB Hot Stove and what we can expect from teams like the Angels and Rangers and one mystery team going forward. You're listening to Chris's Corner on Spreaker.com.
Break 'em.
Welcome back to Chris's Corner, the final edition, and we're going to bring in Robert Dieters, the founder of National Sports here on Spreaker.com. Robert, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing good, Chris. How about you?
It's been all right. It's been a rough show. It's got to shake the rust off, but back here hosting Chris's Corner and everything's all good. We're going to talk about MLB with you if that's all right.
That's all right.
Little bit of a highlight today. I don't know if it's much of a highlight, but the Pirates were able to land Francisco Liriano on a 2-year, $12 million contract, according to John Haven from CBSSports.com. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because the last couple of years, the Pirates have been really contending until the second half of the season, and then it all seems to fall apart for Pittsburgh. But I go here, and the problem for Pittsburgh the last couple of years has been their starting rotation. With the addition of Francisco Liriano, you have the potential rotation of Liriano, A.J. Burnett, Josh McDonald, Wandy Rodriguez, and let's not forget first-round pick from a couple years ago, Garrett Cole, assuming he makes the team out of spring training. With this rotation, and of course the offense highlighted by guys like Andrew McCutchen, Pedro Alvarez, Garrett Jones, Travis Snyder, Russell Martin, the list goes on about the offense with the Pittsburgh Pirates, but with this pitching rotation, the offense that Pittsburgh has, along with Joel Hanner end of the bullpen, do you think this Pirates team can finally finish over 500, if not contend?
They can. It's just at the end of the season they did struggle, and especially their pitching rotation really does need work. And I think Francisco Liriano was a good addition. As you said, with the offense, Andrew McCutchen, Pedro Alvarez, and I just think that they're going to do well this season. I think they just have to stay on task at the end of the season. I think what happened was they got really overconfident, and they thought that they would win the division, but nope, it didn't happen. I think this team will do well with the pitching, especially they got A.J. Burnett as well, and that's been a star ace for them.
Well, obviously, like we said, this team is in a position to contend. But there have been rumors swirling around the past week or so about them moving Joel Hanrahan. And Joel Hanrahan has been one of the most dominant closers in the game since coming to Pittsburgh from Washington. Why would you move Joel Hanrahan? To me, that's a red flag saying we can't compete, because you look in that bullpen, and that's really the Pirates' weak spot. You remove a guy like Joel Hanrahan, you have a bunch of no-names down in the bullpen that are going to have to prove themselves, and they might never prove themselves. Why might the Pirates be pushing to trade Joel Hanrahan at the same time signing pitchers like Francisco Liriano?
It shouldn't be. This is a dumb move. They do it. Joel Hanrahan is your closer. This guy can end the game for you. This guy is one of the best pitchers in that bullpen. You have to keep him. If pitcher lines know how, I don't see any contention.
Yeah, absolutely. Joel Hanrahan, an all-star the last couple of seasons as well. Let's move on to the Angels. They've been making moves left and right so far this offseason. You thought it'd be a little bit more quiet of an offseason this season than last offseason. Of course, last offseason they got Albert Pujols and C.J. Wilson. It hasn't gotten any quieter this offseason. They've already made 3 new additions to their starting rotation. They've said goodbye to guys like Urban Santana and Dan Herron, and they've said goodbye to Kendry Morales the other day for Jason Vargas from Seattle. And of course, you can't forget Josh Hamilton in right field. How much better of a team are the Angels going to be this season? Or are they going to be worse? Because the starting rotation's obviously not as good as it was going into last season as it is this season.
I like the news of getting rid of Urban Santana. He hasn't been very well for the last couple of years. So I like Josh Hamilton. Wow, this team can really bring up an offense. And you talk about, you have Mike Trout, a rookie. He's going to be in his second season. I think he'll improve from last season. You have Albert Pujols, and this guy can hit, he can bomb. He's struggling in the beginning in the season with the Angels, but I think this guy is really going to do well for him. Josh Hamilton is just going to be a monster. I mean, he can play the outfield or play designated hitter. This guy can just hit home runs. He can just get hits and get on base.
Well, certainly the Angels, they're a lot stronger of a team than they were last season. It's going to be tough for the A's and the Rangers to compete with them this year, but obviously you had to go on the field and prove it before. Kind of like last season, everyone expected the Angels to run away with the thing, but they didn't even make the playoffs. Now, of course, the fallout of this Josh Hamilton thing. Texas is left with Craig Gentry starting in center field. They did make a move and sign A.J. Pierzynski the other day. They're rumored to have interest in guys like Michael Bourne, Justin Upton from Arizona, and Cody Ross, a free agent. Where do you see this Texas team going next season? They've lost Michael Young, they've lost Mike Napoli, and, of course, Josh Hamilton. What is this Rangers team going to look like on the field?
They're not going to be convention this year. They just won't be. This team lost most of their main guys on the offense. You may notice them out. Mike Napoli is one of your biggest players. Josh Hamilton is your biggest offensive player. You don't want to lose these guys. These guys put you in contention. But I see the A's and the Angels going out. I think, as you said, we don't know how they're going to do on the field, and I think the Angels could take it away. And they're making big enough moves where they're going to do well this season. I mean, I'm not sure about the pitching rotation yet, but we're going to see what happens.
And of course, you look at Texas's rotation. Matt Harrison, Yu Darvish, Derek Holland, Alexi Agondo, and Perez, the young kid out of AAA, and of course Colby Lewis as well. It's not a rotation that stands out at all, but they still got guys who are going to put up offensive numbers. You're talking about the A's. They really haven't made noise this offseason. Where do you expect the A's? Do you expect the A's to have another great season like last season, or do you think it was a little bit of a fluke and they'll return to about 500 baseball this year?
I think, they made a couple of moves this offseason. They got rid of Cliff Pennington, they got Chris Young, and Johnny Gomes is gone off that team. Johnny Gomes is one of your biggest offensive players. Chris Young, I think, will do pretty well for this team, and they also signed a Japanese player. I forget his name, but I know he's going to be the shortstop now, and he's going to replace Stephen Drew. Yeah, this guy has a better on-base percentage, and they didn't really have a full, complete starter at shortstop really that whole season. So when you look at this team, I think this team is probably going to be exactly the same, but I don't know who their ace is going to be yet, because Brandon McCarthy is gone off this team, so I mean, Portola Colon could be it. I mean, he signed with the A's, re-signed with them. So, I mean, this team is going to be questionable this year, especially with the new players. I mean, this team came off where they won the last game of the regular season and clinched the NL West. But, I don't think this year it's really going to happen. It's either the Angels are going to take it away or, the A's could fight back here.
Yeah, definitely. Real quick before we let you go, there's a couple of good free agents out there. I'd like to get your opinion, or at least your prediction, on three of them. First of all, where do you think Kyle Loesch ends up?
Kyle Loesch is going to end up, I would say, a team that really does need help. A team that would, this is a really good question with Kyle Loesch. I don't think he's going to go back to the Cards. I think the Cubs could pick him up.
Even with the addition of Edwin Jackson yesterday?
I think Jackson will probably land in...
No, Jackson landed with the Cubs. I'm saying, do you still think that Loesch is going to go to the Cubs despite them signing Edwin Jackson?
Yeah, I know Jackson in Chicago. I think the Cubs could actually be in contention for next year if they landed Kyle Loesch. I'm not sure if they have the money yet, because they got Carlos Pena.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a good move from Chicago. What about Rafael Soriano, who's the closer for the Yankees for the majority of last season? He could really help a team at the back of the bullpen.
Yes, he can, and I think the Angels could pick him up. The Angels really struggled in the bullpen last year. I think they can really find Rafael Soriano if they get the right amount of money.
And lastly, Michael Bourne. He's been a fantastic leadoff hitter for Atlanta and Houston over the last couple of years, and has the most stolen bases in the major leagues the last 2 seasons. Where do you think is a good spot for Michael Bourne?
I think Texas. Texas has had a lot of interest in him since Josh Hamilton left for the Rangers. So I think Michael Bourne will land Texas. I think it's going to be a good team for him, a team that really needs a good leadoff hitter.
Well, those are some good predictions. Thanks for joining the show, Robert.
All right, thanks, Chris. Anytime.
That was Robert Dieters, the founder of